You're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get into our next discussion of the day now. Many Nigerian youths want to get involved in determining how the nation is run because they believe that they can make better contributions to leading the country in the right direction. The Not Too Young to Run law signed into law by the President of Buhari's administration was supposed to provide them that edge. But sadly, youth inclusion in leadership and governance across the country is still at its lowest. Now, for many, there is still a lack of confidence among the citizenry in the capacity of the youth to lead or handle appointive positions. Ahead of next year's general elections, how can Nigerian youths make their voices heard and take up leadership positions? These are the biggest questions we'll be asking on the program this morning. So joining me to discuss this is consultant on media to the governor of Ogun State, Ife Kayode Akinbode. Kayode, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
And Happy New Year.
I wish you so, Mike.
Good to see you after so many months. I think we saw it through the 2020 for the whole of the year, and all of that. But last year, here in the US, so busy. So
we thank you for his message.
Well, good to see you, though.
Glad to be back.
Great. Now let's talk about this issue. You have been involved in this for quite some time, discussing this, and now you are one of those persons who is, influencing and contributing to leadership in the corridors of power. But let's talk about the issue of youth generally. Anytime we mention leadership, or youth in leadership, our minds go straight and direct to the issue of political leadership. Is that the only way to lead by youths?
Well, once again, thank you, Mike. I think that we should take a wholesome look at the trajectory of political evolution of leadership in Nigeria, pre-colonial era, the agitation for independence, and then the post-independence era. We look at it completely in terms of the economy power, political power, social power, and the rest. In the days of the past, when the great Zik, Obafemi Awolowo, Amadi Bello, there were a set of people who were ideologically grounded, who were educated sufficiently enough to understand the need to take their destiny into their hands. But unfortunately, the incursion of military into governance deviated the focus of the young people's mind in politics. Because the military took over, it was a totalitarian, autocratic process of governance. And over a long period of time, young people find other ways of getting themselves engaged, and they were excelling in the area of medicine, law, and of course recently entertainment before the advent of social media. But the sad part of it is that since the advent of this republic, the level of disenchantment, the level of I don't care attitude, about the young people of this country is very alarming. And I keep asking myself, with what we witness, currently, in the next 20 years, who are those that will take the affairs of this country? Are we still going to continue with gerontocratic process of leadership? Don't forget the present corps of leaders, started from when they were very young.
Exactly.
And they acquired the experience over a period of time. I must just commend some state governors who knew the challenges of the young people into winning elective offices, but I've encouraged them, to join the process and support them where needed, and of course put some in appointive position to lend the rope, because governance and government is a process. It's beyond social media activism, and unless we wake up, the young people of this country wake up and form a united, a purposeful, a deliberate front, I'm afraid that the future of leadership in this country is questioned.
All right. Now, talking about youth in leadership, you mentioned something that was really, really very, very pivotal. You talked about ideology. And if you saw in the pre-colonial and the colonial era, or let me say the First Republic, you see the crop of leaders at that time had, from their programs to the political parties at that time had a very strong ideological base, and that was what drove the way they are approached, and every member of that political party, anywhere you go, because you believed in that ideology, you know what to say and how to say it and all of that. Now it seems like there are no ideologies anymore. Everybody, you just want to lead, and then when you lead, everybody focuses on, okay, what we can provide for the people. Okay, infrastructure, and every program, every plan, every promise by all political parties are almost the same, because that is what the society needs right now. But if we talk about bringing back that, that grounded base of reasoning, of thinking and contributing and all of that, what would it take now? How challenging would it take to make an average youth ideological?
Well, I think I'm going to refer to what Elizabeth Perez said. She said, politics is authoritative allocation of value. And a government should represent collective aspiration of the mass of the people. Unfortunately, like I said, the interregnum of military incursion has taken away the level of education. I'm talking about political education, yes, for the young people and to understand. In the days of the Awolowo, some were, nationalistic in nature, some were regionalistic, some were communist, based on where they were educated. And so those doctrines, those ideological perspectives were learned during their undergraduate days. So they now sat back, rephrased, reformed what would suit the nation of Nigeria. And that was what you saw in those agitation period. And much more that even those people that trained them were scared of their level of deep reasoning and deep thought. Look at what Awolowo did in Western region with other young people. And even look at Babadi Banjo at over 93. When he still talks, you will see a man who is embedded ideologically based on the group. But unfortunately, I think that after this NSAS, we're going to have a united front. But there's one missing link, and ask me what the missing link is. Now, the present population of the young people is alarmingly high. It should have been an advantage, but they're not using the power. There is no united front that is driving the entire process. The level of uneducated youth in the country is much, much higher. That's also understand the challenges and the need of the young people in this country. And unless there's a meeting point between the educated youth and the uneducated youth to come in from, so they can understand that whatever we want to do is for they are not going to be a headway. Those who take advantage of this uneducated youth will continue to do that. And I must say that a few, especially in the Southwest, and I can't speak for where I presently work in the Ogun State, when you have a governor or a government who specifically choose people with set skills within certain age brackets, then you must applaud such. For example, in Ogun State, there is this popular guy that's called Jobberman, and then when this current governor, Prince Abiodun MFR, came into office, he practically dragged the guy down to Ogun State. His name is Leko Olude. He's a special advisor on employment and with specific focus on looking for employment opportunities for young people of the state. And then some of us who have, set skills in the media. I've been in broadcast journalism for all the years that And then he said, okay, you are in politics. You have a set skill. You are a broadcast journalist. Come in and bring your competence. Of course, we're learning the rope of politics. We're involved professionally. And who says that in the next dispensation, we can give it a shot? That is what exactly I'm asking other young people to take advantage. People keep saying that there's violence in power, it's about money. It's not true. It's not true. Yes, you have to spend money. But the moment the united and purposeful young people of this country decide to give it a shot, Mike, I tell you, they will take over affairs of governance in this country. Beyond, sometimes when I sit and I look at the young people, in social media, like, this is misplaced priorities. I see people on Twitters and they say they do memes, and I'm like, you can channel this energy. And I must commend some young people, like this guy called Debo Macaroni, and a lot of them, is very productive in entertainment and is using his productivity to pass message. That's the way to go. Look at Femi Falani Falano. He's a lawyer, he's an entertainment, his lyrics as message. I know those are the area with which you can galvanize the young people and give it a shot. And then the country will be better for it.
All right. Let's talk about, within the youth, there's the dichotomy between the males and the females. Now, giving opportunity to women and females is becoming a phenomenon now because the peculiarities and all of that. Now, if we talk about youth on one hand, of course, that's a demography. And then amongst the youth, we break it again further into the issue of the males who have some level of advantage because of their strength or whatever the thing is, and then the females also who have their strength, but it's not being utilized the way it's supposed to be. So how about the participation of females in that space? We're talking about youth now, because you made reference to the Awolowos and all of that. At that time too, we didn't have enough, females, on the table. Of course, one would say, okay, that was that time. This is the 21st century. So how are we getting them on board so that, everybody's involved? Because that's where it starts from.
I think that we're underestimating the voting typology in this country of the female.
Okay.
I'm in politics, and at one point I was the head of a gubernatorial campaign in Ogun State, and we did some research, and I was amazed that the young women were in the majority to determine who becomes anything in this country. That's shocking. I'm being very empirical here. But unfortunately, like I said, there is no united front to galvanize this trend into reality. In the times past, there were women also. I'm from Abeokuta, and we had Mrs. Funmilayo Ransome Kuti,
exactly.
who stood head to head with her husband. And so we had a lot of, in Abeokuta, we had Titilayo Ajanoku, who was special advisor to President Obasanjo. She was a council chairman when politics was politics in Abeokuta, and defeated all. So it depends on the interest and the passion. I'm not taking anything from people who makes use of social media to make money, to while away time, but I'm also appealing that they should galvanize that into power that can take away, power from those perceived that are not doing enough to salvage whatever is left.
All right. We often talk about youths getting involved and then taking up power and all of that. We have seen one or two few instances where perceived young people have been in the corridors of actual power, wielding the decision and the authority and all of that. But there are still complaints as to them not delivering the original thing that they were there to deliver. So is it answerable that this dream that we're looking forward to or expecting, is it answerable to somebody being young or somebody being old?
Governance is not about age. Governance is about ability and proper understandings of issues, of leadership, and the needs of the people, irrespective of the age. Obama became president at a very young age, and he did wonders. And we had another president who was in his 70s, who was a bit controversial. Do you understand? So, to me, it's not about how old you are, but your understanding of the needs of your people and the solutions you can prefer. Well, some young people have had opportunities, like you have said, but they're in the minority. And democracy is about majority. If you are very intelligent, you're dynamic, you're visionary, you have ideas that can make impact, and then the majority of those do not share your vision, it's not going to fly. And so sometimes people are like, oh, he's there. What's he doing there? They have forgotten it's a democracy and it's a process. It's not the military government where you run by fiat. Whatever you do, your policies, your ideas is subject to democratic process. And so sometimes expectations are not what people get to see for a young person in government. Even if you hold executive governorship position and you're a young person and those other people are in the majority, you're still going to run into problems because you can't sit in the corner of your office and make autocratic decisions. But when a majority of young people are there, they understand your thinking. They are 21st century digital compliant. They know what is happening in the world over. They can share your vision and then you can drive the process faster than the other side of people.
All right. Now, this year is going to be very charged up with political activity, considering that we'll be having the general elections sometime early next year. Talk to us about getting youths to be players and not just real actors, not just players where you are involved in voting or you're involved in assisting those
or dancing around and singing.
The point there, I use the word assisting, in a general form, but the point there is we want you to be there. How do we get youth to be those ones, picking the nomination forms and all of that?
Mike, I'm afraid 2023 might be a bit, challenging for the young people. It's close. Most political parties...
We have the not too young to run law already.
Yes, it's there. But who's taking advantage of that? I'm afraid, Mike, every political process is determined a year before the election. I'm an active player and a stakeholder in the political process. I can tell you for free that I do not see any of the major political party giving a young person below 50 the opportunity to become governor or president in most of these states and this country. Is glaring. Because one, the major political parties, as it is presently constituted, does not have that numerical strength of the young people to take the ticket of the party. And except, and I quote, and except a third force for the young people, which is mostly unlikely because of the time frame happens, we are still going to be the way we are.
This third force that we talk about, the point there is, this is not the first time we're talking about it. In fact, the third force, there's the third force now coming up on board again. We had the third force, I think the last two dispensations became prominent, and some intellectuals came together to say, okay, we want to go deviate from what the two major political, because we've always had the two major political parties, but the point there is, when it comes to the third force, what will the third force bring on board? Whoever the third force is, what would they bring on board that will be different, that will be unique to Nigerians, differently from what the two major political parties have had?
Mike, you want me to be very frank with you? I've had reasons to look at the configurations of the characters of those who are projecting the third force. Okay. They are eminently qualified, intellectually sound Nigerians. But we are a nation of 200 million people. And ironically, those who determine the vote, like I said, the voting typology, are not, in the frame of those who are gathering. We're talking about grassroots mass mobilization for electoral victory. We have people who are writing papers, who are designing framework. It doesn't work like that. What I would have suggested is that those intellectuals should merge into those mainstream political parties, get entrenched, those who share something similar, to their vision, and then find a way of getting involved, because it will take a lot. It will take a lot to get the Nigerian people to follow a particular directions. We're using two voting types in Nigeria, and it will take a whole lot, except there's a break in one of those major political parties, and then those ideologically grounded people can match, but they'll still subsume them because of the resources and the enormity
at the disposal of
that they have.
Now, the 2023 election, what do you think would determine the voting patterns and what the outcomes could look like?
What might likely determine is not something very different from the past.
Okay.
We're going to look at regionalism. The issue of religion will play out. Economic policies will play out. Security will play out. But among all, I foresee that the young people somehow might make some influences at some levels for House of Assemblies in some states and House of Reps in some state, and then that will be a springboard for what we see going forward.
Now, the issues of security has, dominated discussions in the last few years, and up until now, we're still having that discussion right now as to what the government should do and can do to ensure Nigerians are safe wherever they are, whether you're in the north or you're in the south or east or west, whatever the thing is. Now, recall that in 2015, when former President Goodluck Jonathan was still there contesting, one of the major things that Nigerians said, if you can't deliver, that we won't vote for you. Recall that time, it was the issue of security. A lot of people who didn't want who were not satisfied by the way it was at that time was on the issue of security because of the activities of Boko Haram at that time. Right now, we still have those elements here and there, not just Boko Haram anymore, but banditry, kidnappings, and all of that, as the case may be. Now, talk to us from the perspective of security. What it would look like going into election, preparing for election, and how the debates around security will shape the way that people will act towards the next election.
Well, no country has absolute security, free society, and Nigeria is not different. The only difference here is that it is particularly concentrated in a particular region of the country, the northwest and the northeast and a bit of north central. But I must commend the president, because I listened to his broadcast on his sister station yesterday, and the authority and the audacity with which the president spoke gladdened my heart and officially declared these characters as terrorists. And there have been, governance, like I said, is a lot more challenging than when we see it from the outside. For some of us who have been political analysts, and we know that there's a whole lot of difference. The moment the president gives directive that they should go all out and use military might, there'll be casualties on the part of the civilian. And you see, the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces must be wary not to sacrifice the lives of innocent people. And he's been very careful. But you see, an average person doesn't see it from that angle. There are Security Council meetings that are constantly reviewing the issues before decisions are taken. But you see, the last 6 weeks, you see the way those bandits were releasing captives and they were running and all of that. And I can assure you that 2023 election will be a very peaceful election because from the body language of Mr. President is ready to wipe away any form of terrorism or banditry in this country. And it's good because even in 2015, we had about 20 local governments that was, completely in control of Boko Haram. But today, I do not think there is a whole local government under the control of Boko Haram. And that's a plus to President Muhammadu Buhari's administration.
All right, now let's go back to the issue of youths and all of that. Now, there is the issue of the older generation have always talked about the issue of experience. When it comes to being a leader, in the political leader in that context, and then holding some positions and all of that, that you need some level of experience. We know that a lot of young people may not have that kind of experience. But where does experience and pedigree, how does it play out when it comes to somebody being a chief executive or a National Assembly or a State Assembly member or a legislator, whatever the thing is, or somebody in the authority where you're sitting on the seat and you have the powers to decide people's destinies in that context? Where does pedigree and experience come in there?
Well, life itself is a learning curve. Everybody learns every day. We make mistakes, we get corrected, and then we do it. When there are opportunities, these young people will make mistakes, will learn, and then will get better. But nobody buys experience from the market. It's a process. Give them the opportunities first and see them whether they will not do wonders. But the only thing there is that the few people who seems to have that understanding are not actively involved in politics. And that's the tragedy. Because you need a lot of emotional stability to be able to govern a country as complex as Nigeria. How do I mean? When you want to take decisions, in politics, in governance, you have cacophony of voices. You have a lot of interest.
Do it. No, don't do it. Do it. No, don't do it.
And then it takes a whole lot of experience, emotional stability, experience, and maturity to take a decision that will be in the best interest of the majority of people. You cannot always please everybody, but democracy is about the majority. Once that decision is in the interest of the majority, then you are good to go. So I think the delicate balancing is that beyond intellectual ability, beyond digital understanding, you also need political pedigree and experience to be able to be a very good political leader.
All right. It's quite interesting to talk with you, Ife Kayode. The issue there is there's so much to talk about when it comes to youth and leadership generally. And we've been able to drag you here, so I know we'll keep dragging you here. I know you're very busy this time around.
But I saw the permission of His Excellency.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep seeking his permission to have you on, so we can have, because it's about using the platform to also encourage young people who...
I'm an example of a young person in government, and I've been there for quite a while, and I've been doing my best to also encourage younger elements. One of the basic reasons why I came on board is for people to see that you can add professional value wherever you are as a young person.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, and we look forward to an interesting 2022.
By the grace of God.
Thank you, Ife Kayode Akimbode, for coming.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Right.